this is the Delhi Metro girl. Of course, that's not her real name. She's an Indian girl whose video went viral primarily because of the clothes that she was wearing while commuting on the Delhi Metro. So many people in India found her clothes awkward. On the other hand, many also came forward to support her. India is changing, right? But what kind of change is this? Should this be considered a symbol of individual freedom or so-called boldness? Or is it India's own version of twisted Western-style female empowerment? Or is it about indecent exposure, a possible criminal offense, an undiagnosed or hidden medical condition, or maybe something else? Well, as someone who was born and raised in Europe and has been living in India for a long time, I can tell you that if Indians continue to follow the West blindly, there is probably nothing that can save India from becoming as rotten or hypersexualized as Western society is. To start with, there are many reasons or arguments that are frequently used to justify or support something like this. For example, 1. Come on, it's her life, her choice. She's free to wear whatever she wants, right? 2. What's wrong in this? India is the land of Kama Sutra. 3. Well, India has that Khajuraho temple which has nude statues, right? 4. How about the Naga sadhus or the Jain monks, etc., etc. Of course, I will answer all those points, but first let's focus on these two factors that almost nobody is talking about. The first one is the possibility of exhibitionism or exhibitionistic disorder. Through indecent exposure, an offender can be secretly feeling sexual pleasure, stimulation, or arousal while willingly exposing herself or himself to others. Remember, it is not just men who are into this. Many women are exhibitionists too. As reported here, according to clinical psychologist Carla Mary Manley, exhibitionism involves revealing body parts that are normally covered or obscured by clothing in accord with societal norms. Remember, it is not just about exposing genitals, it is also about revealing body parts that are normally covered according to the local societal norms. So, should a healthy society allow such offenders to sexually satisfy themselves by exposing themselves to unsuspecting adults and children in a public place? Of course, not everyone who wears revealing clothes is an exhibitionist, but it cannot be denied that exhibitionists do blend in with the general public and can be found almost everywhere. Now, the second factor. It seems that many in India have started to blindly follow the hypersexualized westernized societies, where female exhibitionism is socially sanctioned and can be rewarded commercially. But before anyone follows the West blindly, consider this. Have you ever wondered why in the male-dominated Western societies, which have a long history of exploiting and discriminating against women, they have started to accept and normalize female exhibitionism? Well, in today's profit-driven Western societies, which by the way are still male-dominated, they have discovered newer and smarter ways through which female exhibitionism can be exploited commercially and commodified. Yes, Western hypersexualized male-dominated culture doesn't only objectify women, but also encourages women to objectify themselves. In this male-dominated Western culture, females are rewarded and encouraged when they objectify themselves through sexualized representation of their bodies. It also seems clear that in this male-dominated culture, sexualized representation of a female body is commercially more valuable than the sexualized representation of a male body. Not only that, it has been observed that in the present social order, where women lack tangible power of their own and are valued primarily on the basis of their looks, many may find that their sexualized appearance becomes one of their very few assets, and in such an imbalanced social structure, women are left with very little choice but to essentially turn themselves into sexual objects to be viewed by those whose position of greater social supremacy has granted them the privilege of the observer. In this process, women have been forced into viewing their sexuality as a commodity through which they might gain a bit of the power held by men. And yes, this Western version of women's empowerment seems to be just another, more advanced and deceitful way of exploiting women by creating a new social order that encourages women to self-objectify themselves. A country like India should do its best to stop this new male-dominated Western culture from expanding. Now, back to these 4 points or arguments that are often used in such scenarios. The first one is regarding the freedom to wear the clothing of your choice. Well, of course, you are free to wear the clothing of your choice, but if you are an exhibitionist, you should not be set free to exploit unsuspecting adults and children for your personal sexual satisfaction and sexual arousal. Please seek professional help to learn about your hidden or undiagnosed medical conditions. Second, yes, it is nice to have that freedom regarding clothes, but then why in so many cases? Is there a certain dress code in many modern and fancy nightclubs, restaurants and posh golf courses, and many so-called advanced societies have no problems in following that? Does that not breach your freedom to wear whatever you want? Why? And third, in the West, there are many nude beaches where people who are clothed are strictly not allowed, right? If in the West, there can be public places where one is expected to take off one's clothes if one wants to enter, then why in India can there not be public places where one is expected to wear decent clothes before one enters? Now, let's focus on the second argument, that is about Kama Sutra. Ironically, many people who use this argument are those who have never properly studied India's dharmic texts, its ancient scriptures, or even the so-called Kama Sutra. To me, it seems that the real dharmic spirit is liberal in the true sense and doesn't ban discussions of sex or sex positions. Second, the dharmic Indian culture is not confined to any book or text. The true dharmic spirit encourages one to ask tough questions, seek reforms, and learn and evolve continuously. In addition, we shouldn't forget that different eras may have different cultural values and different definitions of modesty, but regardless of the era or culture, can there be a place for female exploitation or sexual offenses in any society? So yes, as responsible citizens, we cannot endorse or glorify the exploitation and commodification of the female body the way it is currently happening in the male-dominated, hypersexualized and pornified Western societies. This is not female empowerment. As I explained earlier in the video, it is just a new form of female exploitation. Here is the third argument. How about Naga sadhus or some Jain monks? What about them? Well, for any rational observer, the idea of comparing the concept of nudity in these sadhus and monks of India who practice non-covetousness and celibacy to the westernized concept of nudity can sound very silly or inappropriate, as nudity in the West clearly appears to be mixed with promiscuity, exhibitionism, mental disorders, risky sexual behaviors, and materialism. Comparing those who are deeply buried in materialism to those who have given up materialism only reflects one's poor intellect or limited understanding of these subjects. Another argument that is often raised is about some temples in India with erotic sculptures on the outer walls. The answer to that was given to me by KK Mohammed, who I interviewed, and I highly recommend that you watch this video to broaden your perspective regarding this subject.
Just outside this Garbhagriha, the statue on the right side, she would be standing on a crocodile, and the statue on left side, she would be standing on tortoise. So the one standing on crocodile, that is a symbolism of river Ganges, and the one standing on tortoise, that is a symbolism of river Yamuna. So this means you are having a symbolic bath in river Ganga and river Yamuna, and also the unseen Saraswati also, because it is you have got that Sangam is there, it is unseen, this one also. So you are having a symbolic bath. You are washed of all the sins, and also at the same time of all that kind of ill feeling which you have got, Kama, Krodha and all these things. So you have to set them aside at one particular place, and then you are going towards your God. So that is the concept. For example, if you go to Khajuraho, you have all kinds of things are there, but that is only outside. You don't find things inside, which means this world is full of all these kinds of things. But now you are in a different world. You are going to a temple. Again, you are having your symbolic washing in Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati, and then with a pure mind you are going towards your own God.
So, does India want to build a truly empowered society, or does it want to blindly follow the male-dominated, pornified, hypersexualized, broken and rotten Western societies whose culture the West is so keen to export to other parts of the world? See you again.